As we've been talking about, one of the chief concerns in Japan right now is a nuclear meltdown. With President Obama touting atomic energy as green energy these days, the nuclear power industry had just about lived down previous disasters like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island. But last Friday's earthquake and subsequent tsunami has led to still untold disaster. Meltdowns are now a real possibility, and the world once again has reason to question and fear the power of the atom. By most accounts, the nuclear crisis in northern Japan is escalating.
You are looking at before and after the explosion. The picture below is before the explosion, above after.
Today, an explosion ripped through the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, tearing apart the structure around reactor number 3. On Saturday, a similar explosion hit reactor 1. Now, officials are using the word no one wants to hear.
We do believe that there is a possibility that meltdown has occurred. It is inside the reactor. We can't see. However, we are acting assuming that a meltdown has occurred.
Plant administrators have already been forced to vent radioactive steam several times. Nearby residents have been told to stay indoors as fear and radiation levels rise.
I'm due to give birth soon. I want to know exactly what's going on at the nuclear plant.
The problems in Japan are also raising concerns in the U.S., where the Obama administration is pushing new nuclear construction.
We're going to have to build a new generation of safe, clean nuclear power plants in America.
We visited the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station last March. Officials there called the plant a key player in the state's energy future.
I believe that it's the most cost-effective way without producing greenhouse gases to provide power for 680,000 or so homes in the state of Massachusetts.
Pilgrim officials also said they've prepared the Plymouth plant for any emergency, be it terrorism or a natural disaster. But officials in Japan now say their best-laid plans were simply overwhelmed by nature's fury.
We thought we had taken adequate precautions for a tsunami, but what happened was beyond our expectations.
And joining me now is Jim Walsh with the MIT Security Studies Program, Gilbert Brown, a professor with the Nuclear Engineering Program at UMass Lowell, and Alan Kafka, a professor of geophysics at Boston College. Welcome to all of you. How are they working? You have to wonder, because there is some level of radioactivity around, how are they actually working on this? Can they get near? Can they get accurate readings?
Well, first of all, I don't know what's going on specifically with the workers, and I don't know the readings of the radiation exposure that is happening there. But what we do know is what you said, is that the plant survived an earthquake that was frankly about 1.5 times what 15 times what it was designed for. It was a 9 earthquake, I think 7.5 is what it was designed for, and it survived that. And the emergency systems worked, but unfortunately there was also a taller than anticipated tidal wave or tsunami. So there was a flood wall, but it breached the flood wall. And that took out the emergency diesels. So the station goes into a blackout condition. These are conditions that are practiced, actually, in emergency planning at all the reactors that I know of. And so what they're doing is rehearsed behaviors on how to deal with the cooling of the plant in the event that you don't have any power. What we're talking about with the seawater is, okay, you don't want to have seawater. You usually have big tanks of stored water, accumulated water that you would then use to do what they're doing, which is called bleed and feed. It sounds, I don't know if that sounds, what that sounds like, but it's the technical term of sort of bleeding off the steam and refeeding the tank with water.
And how are they doing that, though? I know you don't understand the particulars in this case, but in a situation like this, how are they doing that? Are they doing it remotely? Do they have suits? How physically does it happen?
Well, I think there's pipes and valves and opportunities to get water into otherwise closed system. And so could give you an analogy of a tea kettle that has a flame underneath it and water in it, and in the beginning nothing happens, and then eventually you start to boil, and eventually you have a whistling. When the pressure builds up, you have enough whistling. And then you open the top, and you relieve, big puff of steam, and then you can pour more water into the tea kettle, and you can continue that process. If you don't pour more water back in, then eventually you're going to whistle and whistle and whistle until the kettle runs dry, and then you could sort of warp or ruin the tea kettle.
And that's where your meltdown comes.
That's kind of where the metal gets damaged at that point, yeah.